I'll take Episcopal Evil for 10 points. Thank you very much, Iz.
All right. That will be the Black Dragon.
The Black Dragon.
The Black Dragon. Yeah. Okay, here we go. There it is. Episcopal Church refuses to resettle white Afrikaners, ends partnership with U.S. government. Quote, in light of our church's steadfast commitment to racial justice and reconciliation and our historic ties with the Anglican Church of South Africa, we are not able to take this step, the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church said in a letter to the government. In a striking move that ends nearly 40 years of relationship between the federal government and the Episcopal Church, the denomination announced on Monday, May 12th, that it is terminating its partnership with the government to help resettle refugees, citing moral opposition to resettling Afrikaners from South Africa, who have been classified as refugees from President Donald Trump. In a letter sent to members of the church, Reverend Sean Rowe, the presiding bishop, said that 2 weeks ago, a month ago now, the government informed the Episcopal Migration Ministries that under the terms of our federal grant, we are expected to resettle Afrikaners from South Africa whom the U.S. government has classified refugees. Now, you might ask yourself, why would they have a problem with that? Isn't that what they always do? Isn't that what their mission statement is? The request, Rowe said, crossed a moral line for the Episcopal Church, which is part of the global Anglican communion that boasts among its leaders the late Archbishop Tutu, a celebrated and vocal opponent of apartheid in South Africa. In light of our church's steadfast commitment, we already read that part. Let's see. Rowe stressed that while the Episcopal Migration Ministries will seek to wind down all federally funded services by the end of the fiscal year, the denomination will continue to support immigrants and refugees in other ways, such as offering aid to refugees who have already been resettled. The announcement came just as flights with Afrikaners were scheduled to arrive in Dulles International Airport outside of D.C. The first batch of entries after Trump declared via a February executive order that the U.S. would take in Afrikaners in South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination in South Africa. And of course, we would call that anti-whiteism or white erasure. What's going on there? The South African government has stridently denied allegations of systemic racial animus, even though we all know it's true, and has a coalition of white religious leaders in the region that includes Anglicans. Yes, those riddled with white guilt who hate themselves and their people. The stated reasons for Trump's actions are claims of victimization, violence, and hateful rhetoric against white people in South Africa. Fact check true. Along with legislation providing for the expropriation of land without compensation. Fact check true. Read the letter from white South African religious leaders, which included among its 4 authors an Anglican priest. As white South Africans in active leadership within the Christian community representing diverse political and theological perspectives, we unanimously reject these claims. Yes, because they are anti-white shitlibs through and through. In addition to ties with Tutu, the Episcopal Church has a long history of advocating against apartheid in South Africa. We can skip that. Let's see. In a statement to the White House spokesperson, Anna Kelly said the Episcopal Church's decision raises serious questions about its supposed commitment to humanitarian aid. She argued Afrikaners have faced unspeakable horrors, again, fact check true, and are no less deserving of refugee resettlement than the hundreds of thousands of others who have been allowed in. Kelly added, President Trump has made it clear refugee resettlement should be about need, not politics. Well then, before I move to the dragon, I require something from the chat. S to spit on the anti-white Anglican Church. S to spit on the Episcopal Church. I want to see 2 S's. And if you're so inclined to put them right beside each other, I won't be upset with you. All right. Let's move now to the Black Dragon. The Black with us tonight, excuse me, works for the Empire's Ministry of Faith, and he has the thankless job of understanding the many various religions of the Great Dragon Empire. As long as practitioners do not represent a civil or martial threat to imperial holdings or imperial trade, they are allowed to pursue and celebrate their faiths, although monitored by dragons such as himself. His question tonight is thus, and Newsfist, you chose this, so it comes to you first. How do you think anti-whiteism in religion should be handled? Have you had a personal success countering anti-white rhetoric in your religious group?
Oh, that's a good question.
I tend to ask those on this channel.
Look, I think the root of a lot of the problems in the East Church is quote unquote Judeo-Christianity, right? Which is very, very different from actual Christianity. There has been a lot of effort put into making this sort of two-headed hydra that is a combination of Judaism and Christianity. And really the way to sort of get back to it is to go back to sort of original forms of Christianity, right? Like the old kinds, like Orthodox or like Tried Catholics or like the Lutherans. Most of the sort of like neo-Protestant kind of like stuff is just massively paused in the sense like you see this all the time. They're like,
yeah, we talked about the Schofield Bible and how much damage that did to Christians here on the trip. Yeah.
So they're basically like, oh, so you're a Christian, right? Well, you should let like, Infinity Bomalians come over and destroy your lands. There's nothing in the Bible that says anything about that, right? Like, they'll quote the Good Samaritan. Yeah, the Good Samaritan, right, found an injured dude by the road, right? Picked him up, took him to an inn, and left him there with a little bit of money. He's telling the innkeeper to look after him, right? He didn't invite him and 1,000 of his people to come and like live on his land and like eat everything he owns and like rape his daughter, right? There's a very, very, very big difference between these two things. I don't think that groups like the Episcopalians can really be saved because it is sort of part of the root idea that that they have espoused. That Christianity just basically means sort of like letting anyone like walk all over you, and I'm afraid that's not historical Christianity at all, right?
Yeah.
Like it just isn't. I mean, Vlad Tepes was an Orthodox Christian, right? So who then later converted to Catholicism, right? So this idea, Stone Choir, which is a really, really good podcast, I would recommend people check it out if they're interested, did a whole thing on this that was like, by modern sort of conventions, like by the modern Lutheran or the modern Episcopalian, any kind of Christianity basically before I think like 1950 is heresy now, right? They've gone in and they've like changed like all of this stuff, right? And it's not Christianity. I mean, right? Like I could call myself a Muslim and go out and like wear shorts with my ass hanging out and like rock around with a bottle of vodka and stuff, right? Like, but it wouldn't be Islam, right? And Christianity is not that, right? It's not just standing around in a hall with a bunch of people chanting, saying like, oh yeah, we want people to like invade our lands and take everything we have. It just isn't, right? You need to, to use a programming sort of term, we need to return to like a more original branch of Christianity, right? Before all the trannies got in and messed it all up, basically. So
yeah, I want to pop up in a comment that goes along with what you were talking about there. Big O says they have undermined traditional Christianity along with dozens of other mainly Protestant denominations, which is the actual goal of the quote Judeo-Christianity.
Yes, correct, exactly. So I don't have any of that. There's not really any of that stuff in Greek Orthodoxy as far as I have seen. It's still very, very based, and quite frankly, if I heard any of that shit in a church, I would just walk out, right? So possibly another way of doing it is to just vote with your feet. If you're anywhere near a church and you see a pride flag, or you see like BLM, or you see like a woman at the altar, or you see that they don't do the liturgy anymore, just walk, just leave, right? These churches are actually dying sort of their own accord. You go to a lot of them, and the only people left are like these sort of Zionist boomers. All the sort of young energy does seem to be with more traditional forms of Christianity. So hopefully they will just die a natural death on their own. I don't know if you could like really push back. I mean, look what happened to Ryan Turnipseed. Right, like he has basically caused a massive schism.
Somebody has to mute himself. Who is that? All right,
he's basically formed like a schism in the American Lutheran Church by just basically saying, look, up until 1960, we didn't believe or preach any of this stuff, right? Like, where is the authority for which you go back and you change the Bible? And they like just totally tried to like destroy his entire life. So I don't think once a church has
it's
become
messed
that
up,
odd,
man. They did Ryan dirty. We
they
all
did,
had his
right?
back.
And he's a lovely guy. I talked to him about it, and he's a really, really nice dude. So I think that branch just has to die its natural death. I'm not sure that it can be reversed once it really takes hold.
All right, let's hear from someone else.
Unfortunately, my father was Episcopalian, but back when they were at least somewhat more based. He was born in 1949, so he saw a very different church.
As did most people that old, yeah.
I think, unfortunately, it just has to die. I have to agree entirely. I think the people who supported it originally have to die with it. A lot of things are just going to get resolved when say like you said, the Zionist boomers just die off. I hate to play that card so heavily.
But that's the case, though. Look, that's
it's the
true.
truth.
Like Yuri Bezmenov said, the people who get indoctrinated, they're done. You can't change them. You just have to indoctrinate the next generation differently. Like you just have to let them go.
Yeah, Eden found data on this, and people who were primed, like some 30+% of them, would not change their mind even after they'd been presented with the fact they'd been lied to. So it just doesn't matter. They're done for. I mean, and there is reason to be positive. I mean, looking at the 18 to 24 voting data, it's like men are plus 13 or 19 or something like that, and women are like R plus 4. There's going to be a bunch of people who are working very hard and establishing their lives, assuming that we can manage to fix the economy, fix the culture, reduce immigration, do all this stuff that makes the American dream more viable. And if these people achieve, they're going to do great things. I mean, the mid-21st century might be a gleaming golden age for the United States if this goes the way I think it's going.
Well, we all hope and pray for that.
Yeah. I just think that really it's the problem. The problem is the boomers. And you look at the polling data for like Labour in the UK, and they're the only people who vote for them. And man, they don't exactly live in a way that's particularly healthy. So I don't know. I think things might change a lot in the next decade. They might
I definitely think things are going to change a lot for good or ill in the next 10 or 20 years. So like it's do or die time for the white race. So things are going to change a lot one way or the other.
I think it's dangerous to assume that when the boomers die, they're going to take their shitty ideals with them. Like that, all of their shitty ideas.
But I'm not assuming that I'm not assuming that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know you're not. I know
that they're like, I'm not assuming that it's just going to go away. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a certain percentage that completely were taught by them, like their kids or their grandchildren, and some of them are just sucked into it. But I'm saying that the statistical data shows that it's not the majority.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
So somebody talk about the dragon's question. Like, how do you think anti-whiteism should be handled in religion? What do you think you should do about it? And do any of you have personal success stories about countering anti-white rhetoric in your religious groups?
Gatekeeping is absolutely the only way to do it. You got to vote with your feet. You got to go to a church that's based, and then you got to gatekeep this shit when it's there. You have to let these woke churches wither and die. Many of them are just grifts anyway. There's a big problem in Maryland from pastors who essentially aren't part of the committees. They don't go through the steps to actually becoming a part of their churches. And they're essentially just grifters who call themselves pastors. So you just have to let it die. I don't know what to say about the people who fall for that. Because everybody needs a congregation, and there's a lot of people who will just blow in the wind. They will listen to anything. So unfortunately, there will be a significant portion of people in places that are just wastelands that will just not change for long periods of time. And I think, unfortunately, large parts of Maryland are like that, particularly Prince George's County, Montgomery County, St. Charles County. It's going to be those areas that are just like resistant to this because they're colonies of DC. And I know that Black people kind of only make about 11.6%. It's not 13 anymore. They they actually have the lowest replacement rates of any group in the U.S., I think. I think that they're going to have to get sober about a lot of things if they want to be a relevant part of America's future. I think if we want to wipe out anti-whiteism, we have to make a stronger impact on these people. And I've seen what it looks like with Donald Trump. There are people who remember that, you know, I hate to be a broken record, but the thing that got their attention was my wallet was better when Donald Trump was in office. So if we can continue to hold on to the positive vision, right? I think a lot of people can see the possibility for JD Vance being in for 2 administrations.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being nauseatingly optimistic, but
no, you're not.
There's not much competition, and it seems like the DNC continues to believe that the problem was that they were not progressive enough.
Yeah. So my 2 cents on, well, actually, Kizza hasn't answered yet. Kizza, did you have anything on this one?
Well, quite frankly,
I know you're a religious guy. That's why I thought you might sit this one out. I didn't know.
I mean, I was a former militant atheist, but now over the last like 6 years,
You're just militant.
No, I'm being deadly serious. I was a nasty, spiteful militant atheist in my late teens and early 20s.
Yeah, many of us were back in the day. It's
the angry
understandable.
teenage atheist, yeah.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. But over the last 7 years, I've completely reevaluated my position to say that not only is Christianity actually, in the grand scheme of things, a force for good, but actually the vast majority of the people need the church more than they actually realized. And quite frankly, a lot of these denominations of Christianity are nothing but pure blasphemy. And quite frankly, if I had to choose a form of Christianity to enroll in, it would be the Orthodoxy. But I think the Orthodox Church will find me far too radical and far too nasty for their own liking, purely because there's multiple passages within the Bible where Christ himself makes it very clear what his views are when it comes to the chosen people, and how much they blatantly disobeyed his direct orders. And I would dare argue, everyone who even utters the phrase Judeo-Christian should be antagonized relentlessly as committing pure blasphemy against the king himself. But that's my 2 cents.
All right. I don't know if you would enjoy getting involved in a religious group or not. It's been very hard for me as someone who doesn't have faith to find that, but I like the shine of orthodoxy, and because of several friends of mine in the OGC, including Newsfist here, have told me a lot about orthodoxy. I actually looked it up, and there are a few Orthodox churches close to me here, so I'm considering going to check one out. But in regards to the Dragon's question, the way that I have had success, well, I'll do the first question first. The way that I think anti-whiteism should be handled in your religious group is you should approach it in a way that people will hear, because of a very accurate comment made by Alex in the chat. You need to get people to care. Nobody fights over facts. And this especially applies to religious people, people in your church group, preachers, nuns, etc. People of faith have strong feelings. However you want to talk about what faith is, whether you're an atheist to think it's just a different kind of brain activity, or whether you think it's more because of emotions and hormones or whatever, I don't care. But people who are concerned with religion, religiosity, church groups, faith, they care about feelings. They care about should more than what is. And so you approach them on those grounds. You use things like Go Free Lexicon. You use things like biblical examples if you're a Christian, to show that, hey, the races of man are the way they're supposed to be. And I personally have had great success, not just with the Go Free lexicon in church groups, which works great, but using the Bible to my advantage. Specifically, I bring up the Tower of Babel story, or Babel, if you think it's supposed to be pronounced that way. Is a bunch of people, the Tower of Babel story, they came together, they're going to build a tower to heaven. People from all over the world, they wanted to rise up to godhood, right? Well, God didn't like that. He struck them down and made them all speak different languages. So clearly it's against God's wishes to mix us all together into a big brown soup and try to make us all the same. God clearly hates that and strikes you down with divine wrath when you try to do that, right? Like, that's the message that you take from the Tower of Babel. That's a really good starting point to sort of smack Christians that have been, mind-warred with Judeo-Christian bullshit their whole lives. It's a good way to sort of slap them in the face and make them start thinking about it in terms they can understand. And also, most of the Christians in my life have been very soft-hearted, kind people. And when you approach them and say, hey, I don't hate Jews, I don't hate blacks, I'm coming at this from a place of love for our own people. Look at how all these anti-white policies, all this stuff, these advertisements, this HR stuff, or whatever the topic of the day happens to be. And I say, don't you think God loves white people too? Clearly he does, right? And so when you approach them, regular people, with a message of love and talk to them in a way that they can understand in their own Bible stories, you can really just sort of smack people out of it. And they'll just immediately like, oh yeah. Like, most people, if they're not ideologically driven to be anti-white, that really gets people on board quickly when you not only speak from a place of love, but use examples in Bible and other Christian teachings to make them realize, oh yeah, white people should be loved. They shouldn't be denigrated. Yeah, this is probably bad. I've had a lot of success with that with people, especially of the boomer category. But anyway, so that's my take on all of that.